While cultural psychologists have applied these concepts to understanding diversity and social inequality more broadly, applying this framework to racism specifically is essential. By recognizing the fundamental role that culture plays in shaping the racial dynamics, we gain an understanding and a deeper understanding of how racism works in our society and how we can actually move towards a society that is more equitable and inclusive for all. So what are some psychological strategies we can use to combat racial discrimination? Addressing racial discrimination requires a multitude of approaches that consists of not only individual actions, but structural change as well. Let us not forget that. That's the sociologist's job, but we need to connect the two. So essentially, when it comes to structural change, psychological interventions can also play a huge role in combating racial discrimination, particularly in individual and group-based dynamics. And one thing I love to reiterate in workshops that we deliver in Durham, and I first heard it from the director of the Othering and Belonging Institute, Professor John A. Powell, is that let's be hard on systems and soft on people. And when it comes to tackling discrimination and racism, it's creating ways in which people can understand it for themselves, how their groups or the wider society, or even them as individuals, may be contributing to inequality, and in this case, racism in society. By understanding the underlying psychological mechanisms that perpetuate discrimination, we can develop effective strategies to combat it both on an individual, like I said before, and systemic level. So what are the strategies that we can apply? Firstly, promoting intergroup contact. There is an abundant amount of psychological research that consistently demonstrates that positive intergroup contact, aka meeting people who are not like you, talking to people who are not like you, positive intergroup contact can substantially reduce prejudice and discrimination. Encouraging meaningful interactions between individuals from totally different worlds, different backgrounds, can foster empathy, break down stereotypes, and promote understanding, intercultural understanding by that, when we're talking about race and racism. Secondly, challenging prejudices, biases, and stereotypes. For example, through educational initiatives aimed at challenging conscious and unconscious biases and stereotypes are crucial in combating racial discrimination. By raising awareness of prejudice and providing actionable solutions and tools to countering them, individuals can learn to recognize and confront their own prejudices, attitudes, and behaviors. Thirdly, we need to cultivate empathy and perspective taking. Empathy plays a key role in reducing prejudice and fostering social cohesion. Interventions that promote perspective taking, aka through intercultural training and work, interventions that promote perspective taking, such as storytelling, role-playing, exercise, and classes, enable individuals to build empathy and empathize with the experiences of others to develop deeper understandings of the impact of discrimination on their lives. And number 4, educating in social justice. By providing education on topics such as systemic inequalities, oppression, and social injustices, individuals can become more empowered to advocate and challenge discriminatory behavior in whatever context there are. And lastly, supporting mental health and well-being. I can speak of this from experience. Racial discrimination has significant psychological effects on those who are affected by it, such as stress, anxiety, depression, and just loss of self-worth and self-understanding. Providing specific support and services and resources for individuals affected by discrimination is essential to mitigate these negative outcomes of racism and racial discrimination, and actually promote resilience and courage and confidence in the face of hardship as well. Well, those are some quick tips that we can use towards creating a more equitable and inclusive society where racial discrimination does not prevail. By addressing the root causes of prejudice and racism on an individual, systemic, and cultural level, we can foster social change and promote dignity and rights of individuals, regardless and considering their racial identity. And lastly, I always say that race is not real, but racism is. And in order to be a unifier, we need to challenge discrimination where it is at, whether it's in our context, whether it's in our wider society, whether it's in our family. Challenging these allows us to build bridges, allows us to create a society where everyone